Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Prime Sports World. I'm, of course, your host, David On Point. I'm joined today by the always intelligent Mr. Christian Simpson, and we're going to be breaking down our mock draft. This is mock draft show number 2.0. If you go to dailyblitz.blog right now, you will see Christian's first mock draft for the 2020 NFL Draft. Um, if you're looking for consistent content on Facebook, Prime Sports World is a pretty good place to be. Also, want to thank our friends over there at Rouge Bear for sponsoring us here at Prime Sports World. Christian, what do you say as you put together your first mock draft? What was you like the most interesting thing that developed when you were creating your first mock draft?
Um, wow, that's a good question. I would say just seeing what every team directly needed. Because, there are some teams I feel that need wide receivers. There's one team that I feel a lot of his defenses always have that defensive tackle in the middle of his defensive line. So it's just really addressing team needs and what you feel would be the best possible fit.
Yeah, for me, I think the one of the things that I noticed when doing like there are a ton of teams that have a billion needs. Like even the team that even when we talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, the team that played for the Super Bowl, they have a bunch of needs. Like they have a lot of needs. Like their second, like they have a bunch of like their first offensive line stinks. Like the worst offensive line to ever make the Super Bowl potentially.
Yeah, definitely.
And
And
it was there's a lot of teams in the National Football League right now that have a lot of needs, and because of the way the cap situation's all set up for a lot of these NFL teams, they have to address a lot of these concerns in the draft.
yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off what you said about the Bengals can even go with some secondary help because when you look at a lot of teams in the league now, what do most of the secondaries have? They have a number one guy that can line up with the other team's number one wide receiver. So that's something that they could also target as well, I feel, in the draft.
So let's get into it. Jacksonville Jaguars, first team on the clock. Their major needs are offensive line, linebacker, defensive tackle, wide receiver, tight end, and safety. How do you see them going in this year's draft?
Um, so it seems like the main thing with teams who draft quarterbacks, they're quarterbacks of the future, they're, franchise quarterbacks. What do you want to do? You want to go in one of two directions. You either want to go wide receiver or you want to get an offensive lineman that can protect him for the next 10 years or so. And with the first pick, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking the offensive tackle, Evan Neal from the University of Alabama. Just he's going to bring a nasty streak that Jacksonville desperately needs. He's excellent in run blocking. He's great in pass blocking. He can play all over the offensive line, and I think he would be the perfect fit for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I think that might be his major, like his highest selling point. Like you can move Evan Neal to anywhere on this offensive line. So let's say they re-sign Cam Robinson. Like they could put Evan Neal at guard or right guard or left guard. He's played everywhere on the offensive line except for center, I think, during his college career. So I like to trade up, like to spice up my mock drafts a little bit, not have them the same as the one I did before. In my first mock draft, I had them taking Evan Neal, offensive tackle out of Alabama. And this one, I have him taking Ike Ekwonu, offensive tackle of Ohio State, who's just a behemoth of a human being. Really showed out at the Senior Bowl. So yeah, look for that guy to continue to climb up boards. He's kind of like the darling, and whatever he does in the combine, if his numbers on the combine are insane too. Look for Ike Ekwonu to jump off draft boards.
I can see it. I like that pick.
Moving on from there, we got the Detroit Lions on the clock. Their major needs are wide receiver, quarterback, offensive guard, linebacker, and defensive tackle. And I try to spice up my drafts, but this one is just too good of a fit with a team. I have them taking Aiden Hutchinson, the edge out of Michigan. The dude is from Michigan. It just makes sense to bring a hometown boy back into Detroit. Infuse a little bit of excitement on the Lions team that doesn't have a lot to be excited about. Aiden Hutchinson, I think. I am concerned about his arm length, but his motor is going to make him a 10-year starter in the National Football League.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you anymore. I haven't taken Aiden Hutchinson out of Michigan as well. I thought he was one of the two or three best defensive players in the country. Quick twitch, great release off that snap of the football, and he really stood out this year. He could have gone pro last year, but he decided to come back for one more year, and it paid off because he was a key factor in the reason why Michigan ended up winning the Big Ten East and getting to the Big Ten championship game and ultimately becoming a playoff team. And I said this after they beat Ohio State last year. One, he was my X factor in that game. And two, he is the closest thing I've seen to Joey Bosa. He's a slightly less explosive Joey Bosa. Not as quick. He mentioned the arm length, but it's just something. His game really mirrors Joey.
I honestly think he reminds me a little bit of J.J. Watt too, like coming out of college. Obviously not like the behemoth size, but J.J. Watt kind of had the same kind of textbook stuff. Like I look for him to be potentially J.J. Watt. Like I know it's like extremely difficult like shoes to fill, but I think he can do it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Moving on from there, we got the Houston Texans on the clock. Their major needs are quarterback, running back, tight end, offensive guard, defensive end, cornerback, and then safety. So how do you have the Houston Texans going in this draft?
They can go in a plethora of different directions, David, but I have them taking Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame. Now, I was raving about this kid last year. The kid just has absolutely phenomenal range. He can play in the box. He can play outside the box. He can cover ground, plays center field, plays with that low center of gravity, just always around the football. He was the boomstick for that Fighting Irish defense. I always say every defense, doesn't matter the level, they always have an enforcer, and I think he can bring that to this defense right now. He's 6'4", has wide strides, but plays like he's about 5'11" or 6 feet, and he just has an absolutely terrific nose for the football. I know earlier in the year, I'm covering Notre Dame's first game against Florida State, and he was literally on the complete other side of the hash, and then just makes a play, gets the interception, keeps both feet in bounds, and it's just his playmaking abilities. And one comparison I saw for him, they were comparing him to Ed Reed. Now look, I don't see that because he's Ed's in his own bracket. You know what I'm saying? But Kyle, I think, is the next great safety in the NFL.
Man, we're on the same wavelength with the 2 picks in a row. We're on the same wavelength. I had the Texans taking Kayvon Thibodeau in my first mock draft, and this one I have them going Kyle Hamilton. I think Kyle Hamilton may be the safest pick in this entire draft.
I can see it.
Like I think when you look at Kyle Hamilton, you look at like what he's going to translate into the National Football League. There's no one I'm more sure of is going to be good than Kyle Hamilton. Like he will be good. Like how good is it kind of a varying scale of how good he's going to be, but I'm sure he's going to be good.
He'll be good.
Like I'm just sure of it. Like I'm just sure that Kyle Hamilton's going to be good in the National Football League. And if you are Houston Texans, you need to go safe. Like you need to make sure you hit on these picks because your team stinks.
Right.
Like that's just what it boils down to. Moving on from them, we got the New York Jets on the clock. Their major team needs are quarterback, running back, tight end, offensive guard, defensive end, cornerback, and safety. And with the way our mock draft pans out, the New York Jets are flying up to the clock to make this selection, and they take Kayvon Thibodeau, the edge out of Oregon, who was the consensus #1 pick when the college football season started. He's slipped a little bit because people wanted to question his motor and how healthy he was and how motivated he was to actually play football this season for an Oregon team that was down. They beat Ohio State, but like Kayvon Thibodeau is going to fall right into the New York Jets' lap, and they're going to thank their lucky stars that he fell.
Yeah, I think this is the perfect fit. I actually have the Jets taking Kayvon Thibodeau as well. I think he's the best player in this draft. Closest thing I've seen to a future Hall of Famer. Should have made it this year, but we'll get into that another day. DeMarcus Ware, defensive end, can play outside linebacker, and almost has the same build as DeMarcus as well. But you look at that first step of his off the snap of the football, it's excellent. He gets where he wants, when he wants to, and how he wants to. Watched him all year, raved about him all year. He was my best player. I thought he was the best player in the country behind Bryce Young. I thought he was the best non-offensive player in the country, but he just does everything. He has violent hands. He can stop the run, but his specialty is getting after the passer.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think if Kayvon Thibodeau was to fall to 4 of the Jets, they would be thanking their lucky stars that they'd be able to take him. Because he's gonna. If I was like sure players that I'm sure are gonna be good in the next level, it's Kyle Hamilton and it's Kayvon Thibodeau. Like 1, 2. Like I'm sure those guys are gonna be good players in the National Football League.
Yeah.
Moving on from there, we got your New York Football Giants. Their major needs are offensive line, tight end, linebacker, edge, quarterback, and then wide receiver. How do you see your New York Football Giants doing? What do you think they're going to address in the draft with their first two first-round picks?
I continue to build this offensive line. I think that's what Brian Dable's first order of business is going to be. He can go in so many ways. He can go defense. He can go offense. But yeah, if you really want to try and invest in Daniel Jones, you go out and you go get. Okay, I'm gonna try to pronounce his name. The kid from North Carolina State,
Oh,
Akeem
Kwame or Kwame. I
Iquanu.
pronounced it right earlier. Aquanu.
Aquanu,
It's Aquanu.
Aquanu,
Aquanu.
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 I think he's the second best offensive lineman in this entire draft. Another guy that you can plug in and he can have an immediate impact. He has that nasty streak, doesn't mind doing the dirty work, doesn't mind flipping pancakes and knocking people down. And I think he'd be great. He'd bring an edge to a Giants team that's needed it, quite frankly, in the last, 6 or 7 years or so.
So in my current mock, so my first one, I think I had them go in Aquanu also in my mock draft, my first one, but he's no longer available because he got taken with the first overall pick by the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I actually had them taking Evan Neal, the offensive tackle out of Alabama, and
Okay.
it's a lot to do with the fact that Evan Neal just gives so much versatility because they've addressed their offensive line a little bit in the past couple drafts. With Andrew Thomas, who hasn't really panned out in the National Football League, and then they have what's his name, the kid they got from they signed from the Patriots, who hasn't made Solder, who hasn't really worked out there either. But you draft Evan Neal, and you can basically put him all over your offensive line. So if you decide to address offensive line with your other first round pick, you can move Evan Neal to where it's appropriate. And I think this is a good fit with player and team.
Yeah, I can see that. I like that.
From there, we got the Carolina Panthers on the clock. Their major needs are quarterback, offensive line, safety, defensive tackle, and defensive end. And this is where I have my first trade in this mock draft. I actually have the Seattle Seahawks in this spot because I have the Carolina Panthers trading for Russell Wilson. They are going to give up 2 first-round picks and Sam Darnold in order to get Russell Wilson. And now that the Seattle Seahawks are in the clock, they have some other major needs, including offensive line, and I'm going to have them go Charles Cross, the offensive tackle out of Mississippi State. If you're going to try to rebuild this offensive line, you need to do it through the draft. Seattle does not have any draft capital in here. You get Sam Darnold, give it 1 season as a prove-it deal. You draft somebody later that you could potentially develop and potentially be, the heir apparent to whoever you're going to do with Russell Wilson. You take the kid from Cincinnati in your second round if he's still there. Give me. So I got the Seattle Seahawks taking Charles Cross, the offensive tackle out of Mississippi State, with my first trade in this mock draft.
Okay, okay, yeah. Usually I don't do the trades with my first one. I try to keep it simple. I'll jazz it up a little bit as I do
So
some
this is
mock
my
drafts,
second one. I
maybe.
didn't include any
Okay,
trades in my first one. So
okay. Well, the Carolina Panthers, number one, I think the Carolina Panthers need Jesus because they've been just that
they
bad
do need some
the
Jesus.
last couple of years. Because here's my thing. Matt Rule is pointing the finger at everybody else but one person, the man in the mirror. He needs to do something. And if he can, I'm with you, David. I have the Carolina Panthers taking Charles Cross, the offensive tackle out of Mississippi State. Just another guy. This draft is filled with a lot of potential great offensive linemen. It's the most that I think we've seen in quite some time. We had 3 going so far within the top 6
Yeah.
already. And this is another guy again, physicality, just physical, dominant. And if you line up on him, you better bring breakfast, lunch, and dinner because it's going to be an all-day assignment with him. He just does not let up. He has a tremendous motor, and yeah, the Carolina Panthers are going to benefit from him. Last year they went J.C. Horn. Now they're going to try and get another staple that they can build upon for the next couple of years.
Also joining us here on the show is Mr. TJ Hopkins. How's it going, man?
I'd be better if the NBA could get better officials, but I'm gonna say that for another show.
We'll save that for the crossover tomorrow. Let's talk about the NFL draft. So we're on the Carolina Panthers. What do the experts have them doing?
Yeah, Daniel Jeremiah for NFL Network or NFL.com basically um, has a.
I can't even hear him.
You can't hear me, David? Can you
Now
hear
I
me?
can hear you. Now I
Yeah,
can hear you.
you're a little low, but
That's why I don't like using the headphones. But someone cares about an echo, so I'm just leave that alone.
okay.
But the Carolina Panthers, he has them taking Trevor Penning, the offensive tackle out of Northern Iowa. Yeah,
Wow,
offensive
that's
line.
crazy early. But
Offensive line help is another thing that's needed in Carolina outside of good quarterback play. So I think they're finally realizing like, hey, it doesn't matter if Cam is back there or Sam Darnold. It doesn't matter if they don't have protection. McCaffrey can't juke 15 people just to get back to the line of scrimmage just to have so a play doesn't have a negative outcome. I also want to. Is this a? No, this is not a trade. No, this
I
is
don't
not
know
a
if you heard
trade.
it in my mock. I actually had the Seattle Seahawks in this spot, and I have the Carolina Panthers trading for Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, this is not a trade. I thought. Is this the trade one or is this the trade one? Yeah, I have another one here from Chad Reuter. He has a trade from 3 to 6. So in his mock, Carolina trades up to 3 for Malik Willis, and Houston at 6 takes Kayvon Thibodeau.
That's interesting. Moving on from that pick, we got the New York Giants back on the clock. Their needs again are offensive line, tight end, linebacker, edge, quarterback, and wide receiver. Christian, how do you see your New York Giants going with their first round pick?
So I have been taking an offensive lineman, at 5? Now this is 7, right?
Correct.
I have been taking David Ajabo from Michigan. Aiden Hutchinson's guy on the opposite side got a lot of one-on-ones because Aiden commanded so much attention, but David's a guy that can put his hands in the dirt. He can line up, can play back, can cover, can stop the run, can push the pocket, can get to the quarterback, and he's a guy I think that can have an immediate impact right away.
TJ, what are the experts doing with the Giants here at 7?
Go.
Well, Daniel Jeremiah, his mock, no trade yet, but he has Drake London going to the Giants at 7. Chad Reuter, on the other hand, has Devin Lloyd, the linebacker out of Utah, going to the Giants at 7.
So I don't mind the Drake London thing. I actually saw a mock draft that had Drake London as the second player taken in this draft. I'm not going to say the website that did it.
No, you have to. You
Nah, you
absolutely
have to now.
I'm not going to.
You have to.
No.
You literally just you
Walter Football. All right, Walter Football.
That's it. Was that so hard? Was that so hard?
It just doesn't make a lick of sense. Anyways, with that being said, the Giants are going to have to make a decision on James Bradbury, and Jory Jackson only signed a 1-year deal anyway, so they're going to need to address the secondary. I have the first cornerback coming off the board. I have them taking Sauce Gardner, cornerback out of Cincinnati, for the New York Giants with their first overall pick.
I like the Devin Lloyd pick for the Giants too. At 5, Chad Reuter has been taking Ike Ekwonu from NC State. I honestly think both of their first round picks should go towards the offensive line. That's just me. That's my thinking. I read somewhere yesterday. I think they're fielding calls for Saquon Barkley. So look out for that. Whatever happens with that. And
I would actually be shocked if he started the season on the roster.
And we already know what the situation is with Daniel Jones. I think this is going to be all she wrote for Daniel Jones in the Giants uniform because he has no trade value, and the free agent market isn't the best, and you're not going to trade for. You don't have the capital to trade for a Russell Wilson or an Aaron Rodgers. Or
they for sure have they for sure have the capital. I mean, 2 first round. Give them both first round picks for Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. I think that gets the trade done.
Maybe. If that's the case, they would have did it already.
Maybe. Moving on from there, we got the Atlanta Falcons on the clock. Their team needs a quarterback, running back, safety, linebacker, edge, wide receiver, and offensive line. I have the Atlanta Falcons going Malik Willis, quarterback out of Liberty. First quarterback taken in my mock draft. This is also predicated on the Atlanta Falcons trading Matt Ryan to the Steelers for a second-round pick and a conditional fourth-round pick next year that can become a second-round pick if the Steelers go to the Super Bowl.
That's too much. Anyway,
a second and a fourth for Matt Ryan. That's not too much.
It was the way you explained it that made it sound like you made it sound like a lot more than what it was.
I mean, it's a conditional fourth-round pick. So if the Steelers somehow go to the Super Bowl, it will become a second-round pick.
Yeah, whatever.
And the Falcons take Malik Willis, quarterback out of Liberty. The dude rose up in the Senior Bowl. Great performance at the Senior Bowl. Yeah, Malik Willis, Atlanta Falcons.
Daniel Jeremiah has Kayvon Thibodeau falling all the way to 8 in his mock draft, and Chad Reuter because Kayvon Thibodeau is Kayvon Thibodeau still on the board in his too. No, he's not. He's going to use that 6. Kayvon Thibodeau is going at 6 in Chad Reuter's mock draft. So David Oyabo out of Michigan falls to Atlanta at 8. I'd be shocked if Kayvon Thibodeau falls to 8.
Me too. Christian, how do you think the Falcons are going to go in this draft?
The Falcons need defense, and they need a little Jesus too, like the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, they need.
I'm saying, they look. The guy, hey TJ, hey TJ, I'm gonna get you a T-shirt that says #the gospel. Nah, but I have the Atlanta Falcons taking Derek Stingley Jr. from LSU. Look at the division that they play in. You need guys that can line up against Michael Thomas 2 times a year, Mike Evans 2 times a year, potentially Chris Godwin 2 times a year. Carolina, they ain't got nobody, so we ain't worried about them. But Derek Stingley, he covers ground.
He ain't wrong.
I mean,
they don't.
Hey, okay, but like that, you ain't have to say it like that. Like, I mean, damn, like Robbie Anderson, obviously he ain't that quality of receiver, but he ain't no bum either. Like, goddamn.
Nah, he don't scare me. Anyway, but what I like about Derek Stingley, he's always low. He can cover one side of the field. Made comparisons to Charles Woodson. I don't see that necessarily, but he's a guy that can do everything. He checks all the marks. He checks every box off. He can tackle. He's great against the run. And he can play man. He can play zone without any help. He can do everything on an island.
In my last mock, I had the Derek Stingley going to the Atlanta Falcons. I just wanted to spice this one up a little bit. Moving on from there, we have the Denver Broncos on the clock. Their major needs are quarterback, offensive line, linebacker, safety, corner, and then wide receiver. Christian, how do you see the Denver Broncos going in with your first mock draft?
I think they're going defense with this one. I haven't taken Devin Lloyd out of Utah. You guys know my rule. You better have game. If you have 2 first names, and this kid does, this kid was the quarterback of the defense for the Utah Utes. Just always flying to the football. And I think this will be perfect for Denver. You don't have Von Miller anymore. They need somebody that they can build around. And I think that's Devin Lloyd here. I think if he pans out, we're looking at potentially a defensive rookie of the year next year. Just great against the pass, plays sideline to sideline, bumper to bumper, picks up tight ends, pick up running backs in the flat. You name it, this kid's able to do it.
This is my 3rd trade of my mock draft. I have the Green Bay Packers trading Aaron Rodgers at 4.
10?
No, the Matt Ryan trade didn't really affect. It just affected the Falcons what their decision making was. I have the Green Bay Packers trading Aaron Rodgers to the Broncos for a first this year, a first next year, a 3rd this year, and KJ Hamler for Aaron Rodgers going to the Denver Broncos. And I have the Green Bay Packers on the clock, and I have them taking Tyler Linderbaum, the center out of Iowa, kind of replaces Corey Linsley, but they never really addressed and nobody really replaced. This is a little bit too high for Tyler Linderbaum, but the dude is the best center in the draft by a wide margin.
You said that's your 3rd trade.
Yeah.
But you still have. Oh no, you said the Matt Ryan thing doesn't.
It didn't affect the first round. It just affected what the decision making for the Falcons.
It's still 3 trades in the top 10. Anyway, Jermaine Johnson on Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft, the edge rusher out of Florida State, gets to call Denver home. not really. Well, not gonna hold it against them, but let's not act like Florida State was must see TV
So
this
he had a
past
really good
college
showing at
football
the Senior
season.
Bowl. So that's kind of why
So
he's
that's kind of what
catapulted
it
up.
is.
Yeah, he catapulted up draft rankings.
And Chad Reuter has I believe, his first quarterback off the board. Kenny Pickett goes to Denver. One thing that I know we here have held John Elway accountable for is the constant missing that quarterback. Right? I say it all the time. You don't get credit for Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning didn't have to play for you. He could have retired, and the Sheriff still would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer in Canton had he not ever played a down in Denver Bronco blue. Outside of that, Paxton Lynch never saw the field. Brock Osweiler, no, let's not go
Bomb.
there. Trevor Simeon,
I mean, he was fine.
He was a bum.
he's a Flacco. Well, like he kicked the tires on Flacco.
I mean, but yeah,
He
I mean,
hasn't
Joe
been.
Flacco was super washed by the time he ended up in Denver. Like he was just kind of
Then okay, why sign him?
And Drew Lock was basically didn't work out at all.
And Drew Lock
And
does
don't
not
forget
work
they
out.
had Case Keenum too.
Yeah,
Case Keenum, Teddy Two Gloves.
I think Denver, if they don't trade for Aaron Rodgers, I think they go defense, and I think they just roll with Drew Lock for one more season. That's my honest opinion on it. Moving on from the Denver Broncos, we got the New York Jets on the clock. Again, their team needs a quarterback, running back, tight end, offensive guard, defensive end, quarterback, and then safety. I have them taking Derek Stingley Jr. This would be a incredible draft for the Jets if they can come out of here with Kayvon Thibodeau and Derek Stingley Jr. as with their two hauls out of this draft. I think the Jets would be really happy with their haul there. So yeah, give me Derek Stingley Jr. He was arguably the best prospect a few years ago when LSU went to the national title. He had two semi-down seasons after that. The Duke could still really play though. Derek Stingley at his best is better than any other corner in this draft.
I agree.
Give me Derek Stingley going to the Jets.
Chad Reuter has Pittsburgh trading to 10. So they have him trading with the Jets to get 10, to get the 10th overall pick. And his second quarterback off the board, Sam Howell, goes to Pittsburgh. I don't like this pick at all. Nothing about this makes sense. Daniel Jeremiah has the Jets.
What's the draft capital that Steelers need to give up in order to move up 10 slots?
Well, for right now, because he doesn't have that broken down. So right now,
something that irks me
just a pick swap.
No, it can't be. Something that irks me fierce.
I know it's not just a pick swap. I said he doesn't have his breaking.
I know. Something that irks me is when people do mock drafts and they propose trades, and that they don't put the parameters in it. Like, what is going to be?
Right,
like, it's very easy just to predict. Like, oh yeah, this is going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. So it says trading up for Howell would cost the Steelers their 2023 first, so next year's first, and a third this year.
Okay. Yeah.
So they pick swap a first next year and a third this year to move up 10 slots from where are they at 20? 20 to 10.
That's exactly what the Bears gave up to move up to get Justin Fields.
They get Sam Howell, but Daniel Jeremiah has Sauce Gardner going to the Jets at 10, so he doesn't have any trades. Daniel Jeremiah has, from the looks of it, he doesn't have any trades so far. Pretty sure when he does this again, he's gonna include some mocks. But if Sauce Gardner finds his way to the Jets, that's a nice haul. Like you get Ike Ekwonu at 4, and you get Sauce Gardner at 10 on Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft. Like that's a solid day one for the New York Jets.
I agree with you on that. Christian, how do you think it's going to shake out?
Though.
I have them taking a corner as well. It's Robert Saleh and David. You kind of hit the nail on the coffin, right on the head, right then and there. If they can get Kayvon Thibodeau with the first pick, and then go get another top defender with your second pick at 10, I have the Jets taking Ahmad Sauce Gardner. Look, you can't be no slouch out here with your nickname as Sauce.
South.
Let's just put it that way. You cannot be a slouch out here. And I mean, this kid did it consistently on a weekly basis. Held his own. Look, held his own
Mm-hmm.
in the CFP against Alabama because Alabama, they really won that game by running the football. But
Running the ball.
yeah, he wants the number one receiver. He
I
doesn't
like
back
it.
down
I like it.
from a
I like it.
challenge.
Moving on from there, we got the Washington football team on the clock. Their needs are quarterback, offensive line, linebacker, safety, quarterback, wide receiver. Christian, how do you think the Commanders are going to handle this draft?
They always give me the other NFC least teams.
I'll
But
tell you what I
anyway,
think they're going to do first if you
nah,
want.
let me hear it.
You need to
Let me.
update your logo.
I
Put
have them.
Maryland in there.
I have them taking Matt Corral. So I think they can let him sit for a season behind Tyler Heineke. The news about Kenny Pickett's hand size that came out of the combine is something I'm very concerned about.
Don't be as trash. Joe Burrow got small hands.
He has
And
the
look at him. He
smallest
just played the
hands of
Super
any
Bowl.
starting quarterback in the National Football League.
So did Joe
Um,
Burrow.
anyways, I'm taking Matt Corral and I'm going to put him on the Commanders. That's what I'm doing. They need a
I'm
quarterback on the field.
taking. I have the Washington Commanders taking Malik Willis. I think he's my first quarterback that I have off the board. He has the athleticism, and Washington needs a guy that they can build around. That's not Taylor Heineke. Um,
Well, Malik Willis is already gone in my mock, so I couldn't take him. But
okay, but yeah, I have the Commanders taking Malik Willis out of Liberty.
So Chad Reuter went, quarterback crazy. He goes 3 quarterbacks in a row. And Matt Corral goes to Washington. That dumb thing that they do at the combine, like, oh my God, the quarterback has small hands. Watch, that's stupid. That is like what? Why don't you measure his feet while you're at it? Like that's so dumb. That is the dumbest thing. Like, can he hold on to the football? Yes. Can he swing the football? Yes. Hand size
fair
is
enough.
100% irrelevant. If Matt Corral is good to go off of the injury that he suffered during the ball game, if he's good to go, you do not throw Tyler Heineke out there at day one.
This is saying that if he wasn't healthy enough to play. Obviously.
I'm just saying, if he's not, if he is, you are not sitting him. Absolutely not. You've seen Taylor Heineke. You know what he is. You know what he's going to give you. He's not a starter. He's the year before, what they did in the playoffs.
High ankle sprain. He should be good to go for season.
Yeah, he should be fine. Daniel Jeremiah has Kenyon Green, the guard out of Texas A&M, going to Washington at 11, and I like that one a little more because one of the reasons Taylor Heineke got so much burn is because what's his name? Ryan Fitzpatrick got sacked because his O-line sucked and broke his hip. Right? I can't have my quarterback out there with half a hip.
It's true.
And that's
He's
one
going
thing
to
I
have to
got to worry
retire.
about.
Moving on from that, we got the Minnesota Vikings on the clock. Their major needs are edge, offensive guard, cornerback, linebacker, wide receiver, defensive tackle, and defensive end. TJ, what are the experts saying?
Well, one of the schools competing to be DBU in Washington, Daniel Jeremiah has Washington corner Trent Duffy going to Minnesota, and it's a need. It's like that. That is 100% a need if you're the Minnesota Vikings. And Chad Reuter has Stingley Jr. falling all the way to 12.
Man, that would be. Whew.
That would be an absolute steal if Derek Stingley Jr. somehow fell out of the top 10 and went to 12.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he could.
It's like I heard what you said about him. Like he had like a down season the last 2 seasons. Like what's a down season for?
Well, he wasn't really
player of
healthy.
his
He
caliber?
wasn't really healthy, so he didn't put up good tape.
Then I'm not gonna hold him being hurt against him for not having good tape. Like if it's one thing if you're 100% out there, 100% healthy, and you just out there getting lit up, like that's different. Like that's bad tape. But if you're hurt,
I mean, availability is half the battle here.
but this is a guy where we know what we're getting out of him when he's 100%. Especially if
Yeah.
it's like little naggy injuries, which I'm pretty sure that's what he had. Like little nagging stuff. Like I wouldn't hold that against him.
I'm going to go Trevor Penning, the offensive tackle out of Northern Iowa, for the Minnesota Vikings. They need to continue to address this offensive line, especially if Kirk Cousins is going to be the starting quarterback of this team next season. They're going to win as far as their offense takes them because no draft pick that they're going to – nobody they draft is going to miraculously fix their defense. So you might as well shore up the part of this football team that's good. So
Yeah, like you're not wrong. Like it's on one guy, even if it is a Derek Stingley Jr. Even if it is him, like one guy ain't gonna fix it all.
yeah. Christian, how do you think this is going to shake out for Minnesota?
Christian?
Well, I guess we'll come back to them. Let's move on to the Cleveland Browns. Their major need are wide receiver, defensive tackle, linebacker, offensive line, safety, and then edge. I have them
Can you guys
taking.
can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Okay. I have the Minnesota Vikings taking Chris Olave out of Ohio State. I thought he was one of the more dynamic wide receivers. He can play inside. He can play in the slot. Moves well after the catch. Blocks on the perimeter, and you don't know what direction Minnesota's going to go in right now with
Let me
Adam Thielen.
and I'm glad he brought up direction. Let me ask y'all this: they move on from Kirk Cousins. Will we be surprised if they get one of these quarterbacks in the draft?
I don't think they're going to move
No, I
on.
wouldn't be. I don't think they're.
I
Gonna
mean,
move
I
on
also
from
wouldn't.
him.
If they do, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they draft a quarterback. How about the Cleveland Browns, Christian? How do you think the Cleveland Browns are going to? What do you think they're going to do at the draft?
So they can go in so many different directions here, as I think every team can. I think they're going to draft the hometown kid who played in Ohio. I have them taking Chris Olave's running mate, Garrett Wilson, from Ohio State, another guy that can play in, can play outside. You can use them in a variety of ways. I think that's what teams are looking for nowadays. They want to see how can they use wide receivers like how San Francisco uses Debo Samuel. And I kept saying last year that Garrett Wilson, he was their most versatile wide receiver. A little bit smaller, but plays a lot bigger. Kind of reminds me a little bit, has a little Doug Baldwin in him.
I like that comparison. Totally agree with you. I think the Cleveland Browns are going to keep the Ohio kid in Ohio. I have them taking Garrett Wilson, wide receiver, Ohio State. I wrote this mock draft before I found out about Chris Olave's 40 time. Either way, I'm still going to go Garrett Wilson, wide receiver, Ohio State, for the Cleveland Browns. It just makes too much sense.
Chad Ruder has Traylon Burks, the receiver out of Arkansas. Going to Cleveland, 6'3", 2.25. They trying to get Baker Mayfield all the help he can for them to still realize Baker ain't the guy. But let's not go here, or that's not here to there. Daniel Jeremiah has George Karlaftis, the edge rusher out of Purdue. Okay. Going to Cleveland at 13, and that pick right there is more of a. That's a safe pick in the event that they lose Jadeveon Clowney in free agency.
They're going to lose Jadeveon Clowney. They can't. There's no way they can afford to go.
So unless Jadeveon Clowney takes a friendly discount.
Yeah, I guess. But even then, moving on from that, we got the Baltimore Ravens on the clock, staying in the AFC North. Their major needs are offensive line, cornerback, wide receiver, linebacker, edge, and defensive tackle. I have them going to what is quote-unquote cornerback U in Washington football team, the Washington Huskies, and they're going to take Trent McDuffie. One of the things that happened to this Baltimore Ravens team, their secondary fell apart last season, and when their secondary fell apart, this team fell apart. It didn't help that Lamar Jackson missed like 6 of the last 7 games, but this secondary is the reason that this team was formidable even with Lamar Jackson. Without all of their running mates, they need to address this stuff. So Trent McDuffie is going to be the guy out of Washington which is slowly turning into cornerback U. Look around the National Football League, how many cornerbacks or safeties have come from Washington over the last 3 or 4 years. It's immense.
Quite a few.
Buda Baker.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's like 4 or 5 different schools that can say, hey, we're DBU, like Washington, Iowa, LSU, Bama. Like if any of those teams say, hey, we're DBU, it's like, all right, I'm not going to argue with that. Daniel Jeremiah has Derek Stingley falling to 14 in his mock.
That would be a good move.
That would be a great move. And on the
That would
flip
be a
side,
really good move.
Chad Reuter has Trevor Penning at 14, which seems like a more reasonable draft selection of Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa.
Christian,
I don't mind.
what do you think the Ravens are going to do?
I think they're going to go offensive line here. I haven't taken Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa again. This may be the best draft with the best offensive line prospects that I've seen in quite some time. And when you think of that power running game for the Iowa Hawkeyes and Tyler Goodson, Tyler Linderbaum was the anchor of that, just getting down the field, opening up lanes for that power running game. I mean, I think he was the workhorse and he was the bell cow for those Iowa teams, and I think he's going to bring that nasty streak of his with him to Baltimore.
And then swinging around, let me sticking on to the next pick. We got the Philadelphia Eagles making the first.
Quick question. Not to cut you off, but like if you're Baltimore and you notice that, especially like Calais Campbell, he's getting up there in age, would you entertain going edge at 14?
You could,
Yeah, sure.
like I could see a guy. You know who I think would fit Baltimore perfectly, TJ?
Jordan
Who's
Davis.
that?
N'Kobe Dean. No, N'Kobe Dean.
Okay.
He would be perfect for Baltimore.
Speaking of moving on to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles have 3 first-round picks in this draft. Their major needs are linebacker, cornerback, safety, edge, wide receiver, offensive line, and then safety. Christian, how do you see the Philadelphia Eagles making? What do you think they're doing with their first-round pick?
Well, their pass rush was horrible. Their pass rush couldn't stop cyberbullying. Let's put it that way. I have them taking George Karlaftis from Purdue, one of the best all-around defensive players in the Big Ten. High motor, but a very high football IQ. Gets to the quarterback, stops the run, can get those hands up, and that's the one thing we were taught as defensive linemen. If you can't get to the quarterback, you can still affect the play somehow, some way. Get your hands up, knock the football down, and he does that. I mean, he was the anchor of a pretty formidable Purdue Boilermakers defense in the Big Ten this year.
I have the Philadelphia Eagles going Kenyon Green, guard out of Texas A&M. They still need to address this offensive line. So if you're gonna continue to run the football the way that this Philadelphia Eagles team is going to run the football, you need to have a great offensive line. So Kenyon Green, guard, Texas A&M.
To Christian's point about Purdue, Purdue was the team that went to Iowa when they were number 2 in the country and upset them. And you don't do that without playmakers. Daniel Jeremiah, again, he has no trades in his mock. So 15 and 16 are both picks for the Eagles. And Daniel Jeremiah has David Oyabo falling to 15 to the Eagles. And Chad Reuter has a trade. He has the Saints trading to 15 and taking Charles Cross, the offensive tackle out of Mississippi State. He also he does not have the parameters of this trade as to what would have to happen for it to go down. But this is another one of those safe picks. So the Saints move up to 15. They take Cross in the event that they lose Terron Armstead in free agency. So you lose one left tackle, you draft his replacement, and you go from there.
I would be shocked if Charles Cross was there at 15. But
yeah, I would be too.
Stranger things have happened.
That's true. Moving on to the Philadelphia Eagles, they're on the clock again. They have the 15th and 16th pick. Linebacker, corner, safety, edge, wide receiver, offensive line, safety, still a major need for this team. TJ, how do the experts have this shaken out at 16?
Again, Daniel Jeremiah, no trades, so the Eagles still on the clock. He has Devontae Wyatt, defensive tackle out of Georgia, going to Philly at 16. Just like their offensive line, with Jason Kelsey, some of those guys on that front four, they're getting up there. All right.
Fletcher Cox is on the wrong side of 30.
Cox, so eventually Fletcher Cox ain't gonna play forever. I'll have to find his replacement. Chad Ruder has George Karlaftis falling to 16 and going to uh, Philly.
I have the
So yeah,
Philadelphia Eagles taking linebacker Nakobe Dean out of Georgia. This guy is going to be a superstar in the next level. I think.
think so.
I'm with
Yeah.
you, David. I'm with you, David. I have Philly actually taking the Kobe Dean. Now look, TJ. Anytime I talked about Georgia's defense, who was the one guy that I always talked about on Georgia's defense? It was always Jordan Davis, right? The Kobe
Big
Dean was actually
99.
their most, yeah. And the Kobe Dean was actually their most important player. I thought he was the heart and soul. And let's just put it this way: they don't win that national championship without Nakobe Dean. You can plug him in anywhere. He can put hands in the dirt on the defensive line. He can line up as a linebacker, and wherever the ball is, you see Nakobe. I mean, he's traveling pound for pound, mile for mile, step for step with the football, can drop back in coverage, but he does his best work when it comes to stopping the run. And that was an area of the defense where the Eagles struggled profusely last year, was shutting down the run.
Totally agree with you on that. Moving on from the Philadelphia Eagles, we got the Los Angeles Chargers on the clock again. Defensive tackle, offensive tackle, edge, wide receiver, tight end as their major needs. Christian, putting you back on the clock. What do you think the Chargers are going to do?
All right, when you watch the Chargers last year, outside of Joey Bosa, who was another guy that can consistently rush the passer?
No.
I don't
Didn't have
know.
one because they got rid of one. Exactly, they ain't had one. I have them taking Jermaine Johnson, the second from Florida State. Well, I remember watching his first game of the year against Notre Dame, and I probably heard his name about 5 or 10 times that night alone. Didn't really get any sacks on Jack Cohn, but he did enough to where he made his presence felt, and he just be a great complementary piece alongside Joey. They become one of the best pass rushing tandems in the NFL. If all things pan out, I think this would be the perfect move for them.
So the big problem with the Chargers is that they really struggle to stop the run. I'm gonna find a solution to that problem with Jordan Davis, defensive tackle out of Georgia. The dude is a behemoth human being. He's 6'6", 350 pounds. He's built to stop the run, and we saw during that Raiders game where basically the Raiders ran the ball down the Chargers' throat and basically ended their season because of it. Give me Jordan Davis going to the Chargers, and I mocked this in my last one, but this just makes too much sense to pass up again. I just think
Yeah,
this is like gonna be the way it goes.
Big 99 finds his way to LA and he's a Charger and Chad Ruder's mock. And Daniel Jeremiah has the Chargers going safe in the event that they lose Mike Williams, and they take Chris Olave at 17.
Okay.
I would be hard pressed to see them lose Mike Williams. I just don't see it. I don't see them letting him walk.
I would also be shocked if that happened, but I mean, if he signs some kind of, I don't know. I think I'd be really surprised if he would let him walk.
Like
Moving
they
on
can
from them, we
tag
got
him, right?
yes, they could. Moving on from them, we got the New Orleans Saints on the clock. Their major needs are quarterback, wide receiver, offensive tackle, tight end, cornerback, safety, offensive linebacker, outside linebacker, and defensive tackle. I have another quarterback coming off my board here with the New Orleans Saints. I had them taking Kenny Pickett, quarterback, Pitt. I think he's going to be the heir apparent. I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday, TJ. I think if they
Hmm.
take Kenny Pickett, he'll be day one starter for this New Orleans Saints team. He's more talented than Taysom Hill. I think you let Jameis Winston walk, and you let Taysom Hill be the gadget player. You let Kenny Pickett run this. See how it goes.
Yeah, we did talk about that yesterday. This is in the event that they don't re-sign Jameis Winston
This is in any.
because
This is in. Yeah, sure. But
no,
Jameis
no,
Winston's not
like
the future.
no, he's not the future. But if you re-sign him, that means you're going with Jameis Winston going forward. At least for this season. Daniel Jeremiah again, no trades. Kenny Pickett falls to 18 in his mock, and I also think, yeah, this is his first quarterback off the board. Kenny Pickett at 18. Chad Ruder has the Eagles in this slot because they swapped with the Saints. And Sauce Gardner, which is he's not going to fall all the way to 18. I doubt it. Yeah, Sauce Gardner at 18 for the Philadelphia Eagles. I doubt this man falls to 18. That's just me.
Christian.
Um, I think
I
the Saints
also
are gonna
doubt. I
still.
also doubt that Sauce Gardner drops to 18. Like I just don't see it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But
I
I
don't.
don't
I
see
don't
it.
see it either. I have the Saints taking Jamison Williams out of Alabama. They need some depth amongst that wide receiver group. Michael Thomas, yeah, he's expected to be back, but do you think he sticks around, or do you think he requests a trade
I think
down
he
the
requests a
road
trade.
in the offseason? I think he does too. So why not get a guy like a Jamison Williams, a guy that can run the short route,
Ooh,
can go intermediate, can go deep, a guy who moves well without the ball to free himself and get open. I think this will be a good fit for him in New Orleans, and he's versatile as well.
I like that pick actually a lot. Actually, number 19, we got the Philadelphia Eagles back on the clock. Before we predict the pick here, do you think the Philadelphia Eagles are actually going to make 3 first-round picks, or do you think they're going to either trade out of this for maybe picks next year, or do you think they're going to try to package all 3 of these picks up for something else?
I think they trade. They got to trade at least one of these. I think
Yeah, I
they
think they
trade at
trade
least
at least
one of
one.
these. If I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, I was a wild card team this past season, so I can literally like fool myself. If not fool myself, I can fool the fans into thinking, guys, we're a couple pieces away. We need guys who can play like right now, and I don't want to make this. I don't want to get too many young guys out there to the point where it's gonna potentially hinder me. But they keep this pick at 19 and Daniel Jeremiah's draft, and they go Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. My big issue with them still is Jalen Hurts, right? Like they can't like anytime you have to come out and say that the quarterback that you currently have on your team is your guy going forward. That lets me know that a couple of bad throws here, a couple of bad performances there, bad losses here and there. You're gonna move off him pretty fast.
There's a reason Gardner Minshew's on this roster. Just
Facts.
just saying.
And
Um,
Chad Reuter has Tyler Lindenbaum going to the
I love that pick. If Tyler Lindenbaum's still there
at
at
19,
19, which I do not expect him to be, that's a slam dunk pick.
and it's a safe pick because
Jason Kelsey's probably going to be gone, retired.
yeah, retire. Yeah, please retire, dude. You have nothing to prove.
I have the Eagles. So, in my opinion, I think the Eagles are correct. I think they trade one of these picks away, and it's not that I think they trade them for something else. I think they try to get picks for next year. So, I think that Saints pick that you talked about earlier, I think
Yes.
that's an interesting trade. Like if you get some draft capital for next year, because this team has holes that like they're not going to fill with 3 players. The Eagles, I have them taking Treylon Burks, wide receiver out of Arkansas. He's the big body complement to Devonta Smith. Christian,
Well, this is the Saints.
this is the Eagles.
This is the Eagles. Okay. At 19. Sorry, you didn't change the thing, so it's still on
Um,
the thing.
Oh, my bad. Yeah.
yeah, I have the Eagles taking Andrew Booth Jr., a corner from Clemson. They need help in that secondary in the worst way because they really struggled to stop the pass. Their defense really didn't do much of anything last year, if we're being realistic.
I like it. I like it.
Mm.
Moving on from there, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers on the clock, and their team needs a quarterback, offensive line, cornerback, defensive tackle, safety, and inside linebacker. Their draft strategy has changed a little bit because they've traded for Matt Ryan, so they don't necessarily need to take a quarterback here at 20. I'm going to have to take the arguably the best player still available, which is Jermaine Johnson, the second, the edge out of Florida State. The dude really showed out the Senior Bowl and shooting up draft boards. They've been looking for that other guy on the other side of Bud Dupree after they let him walk in the offseason last year. This guy could be. You talked about the combination with Joey Bosa and Jermaine Johnson when we talked about the Chargers. How about T.J. Watt and Jermaine Johnson as the 1-2 punch for the Steelers
Yeah,
moving forward?
that's all T.J. Watt needs, man. Is more help. Like it ain't like the guy, ain't beating triple teams already. It's like let's get T.J. Watt some more help. No, I'm just playing. Yeah, get T.J. Watt some help. That was all sarcasm. If you're the Steelers, it don't matter who the quarterback is if he can't if he can't he ain't got no time to throw. Which why it makes no sense that all these other people have them not going offensive line. Daniel Jeremiah has them taking Malik Willis at 20.
Okay.
So I mean, I actually like that one more than them trading for Matt Ryan because at least Malik Willis, if the pocket does, if protection does break down, Malik Willis can run, like he can extend the play a little bit. And Chad Reuter, again, they traded with New York. So this is the Jets picking at 20 in Chad Reuter's draft. And they take Drake London at 20.
I like that. Mm.
So like you pair him with Elijah Moore, who had a very solid rookie season, and
Right.
Corey Davis, and you go from there.
Christian, how do you see Pittsburgh? What do you think they're going to do?
I think they're going with the hometown kid. I think they're gonna go with Kenny Pickett here at 20. I just think this move it truly makes the most sense because they need a quarterback. Mason Rudolph ain't it. Well, let's just put it that way. Okay, right. Mason
Haskins ain't
Rudolph
it
ain't
either
it.
while we
Who
talking.
Haskins? Look, yeah, Haskins has his nose too busy in stripper booty. But that's another topic for another
Hey,
discussion.
PG.
I
That's
kept
that's
it
that's, that's
PG.
pretty PG. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
was
kept it
joking.
PG,
God
but
damn.
nah, Kenny, no, you wasn't. No, you wasn't. Stop lying. But Kenny Pickett has a strong arm. You gonna have to see me one day. He gonna have to see me one day. But Kenny Pickett
Mark
has
it
a
down.
strong arm. Right. Kenny Pickett has a strong arm. He can make throws on the pocket. He can move with his feet. You insert him in week one for the Steelers, and I think the Steelers have a chance at finally having a quarterback that can consistently push the football down the field because it was looking bad for Ben the last 2 or 3 years of his career, especially last year. Start the post Roethlisberger era. We're off with a bang. Get Kenny Pickett. You got your running back last year, and just get a quarterback that can consistently hand him the ball.
like it.
Well, we can all agree that Chad Reuter going 10, like have the Steelers trading from 20 to 10 to get Sam Howell is
No, just
not
stop
happening.
it.
If they go 20 to 10 and they get an offensive lineman, like if they give a Tyler Lindenbaum, because what's his name, Pouncey retired on them, and they haven't really found his replacement yet. I need to get back to what made me good. Like I was able to run it down your throat and stop your run game, right? Like Najee Harris, he has to make 5 people miss just to
Just to
get
get back
back
to the
to the
offensive
line.
line.
Like that's not
Yep.
that's not good. How do y'all not see the issue? I'm not saying y'all. I'm just saying like in general. I'm just like how do they not see that like that's an issue? Like
Moving on to the playoff teams from last year. The first one is the
ooh,
New England Patriots on the clock. Their major needs are cornerback, wide receiver, linebacker, safety, defensive tackle, and offensive line. Christian, how do you think the
okay.
New England Patriots are going to proceed with
So,
this year's
okay,
draft?
so let me ask you this: when you think of Bill Belichick, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Bill
Defense.
Belichick is a what type of coach? Okay, that's answer number one. Good job. When you think of his defenses, what's the one thing that he always has on those
Pressure,
defenses? Not only
air
that, but
pressure.
he
Shut
always
down
has.
corner.
No, okay, we're kind of in a ballpark, but I was thinking more. He always has a defensive line presence, and Vince Wilfork, Richard Seymour, who's going to be a Hall of Famer in August. Why not go get Big Jordan Davis out of Georgia? He actually reminds me a little bit
I
of
like
Vince
it.
Wilfork.
I like it.
6'6", 350
Mm,
pounds, and I've never seen a guy move as quickly as he does. I mean, he rips through people, and he bring an edge to this Patriots defense. Bill Belichick would love this guy, and
What
that's who I have the Patriots taking.
One of the other things that you think of when you think of New England Patriots and defense is an elite linebacker. They're probably going to lose Dante Hightower to free agency. So I got them taking Devin Lloyd, and it's like you say, Christian. If you're gonna have two first names, you better have game. And Devin Lloyd has all
Better
sorts
have
of
game.
game.
It's only right. It's
Uh, the
only right.
dude, the dude. If you watch Utah football, at least on the defense side of the football, the one guy that jumped off the page is Devin Lloyd. The dude is
That
a
was Devin Lloyd.
pass is lightning, can make all the plays. The dude is just a human highlight reel. Give me Devin Lloyd going to the New England Patriots.
yeah, Daniel Jeremiah has Devin Lloyd going to New England, and again, like I think priority number one with them. Well, not priority number one, but a top priority is keeping Dante Hightower because I like my pairing of Dante Hightower with a Chase. What's the white boy name with the long hair? The Clay Matthews lookalike.
Chase Winovich.
Chase Winovich. There we go. I like that, right? Like Chase Winovich coming out of Michigan. Another Michigan guy has turned himself into he's a stereotypical Bill Belichick dude. Puts his head down, go to work, and just raise hell in a Bill Belichick way. I would love a situation where I can come at you with Dante Hightower and then substitute a Chase Winovich in or a Devin Lloyd in and just keep them coming. Where it's just a never-ending row of pressure. And again, that playoff game is still searing bright in the back of the mind of Bill Belichick, where you didn't force a punt. Every time Buffalo touched the ball, they scored. That's not a Bill Belichick
until the final
team.
kneel down.
Until the final kneel down. And Chad Reuter has a trade. He has the Patriots. No, he has the Packers trading with the Patriots to go from 28 to 21. And he has them going Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State.
Ooh, that's interesting.
He's counting on, Preston and Za'Darius Smith are both cap casualties. Like they're both out of there.
I think so.
So you're not gonna ask Rashawn Gary to pressure the quarterback by himself because he can't.
And Jermaine Johnson will look good in a Packer uniform, as much as I hate to say that. Moving on from them, we got the Las Vegas Raiders on the clock. Their major needs are wide receiver, offensive line, cornerback, linebacker, and defensive tackle. I have them taking Drake London, wide receiver out of USC. The dude has just all sorts of upside. I know he got hurt during this season, but he should be good to go for the start of the next season. Give me Drake London, wide receiver, USC for the Raiders. The dude has all the skills. Like he's going to be an elite wide receiver at the next level, I think.
Christian?
I'm with David. I think they're going to go wide receiver. I've had the privilege of covering a few Arkansas games this year. Saw a little bit of KJ Jefferson, but there was one guy who was just a consistent playmaker for those Razorback offenses, and he goes by the name of Treylon Burks, a guy that's a little bit of Mr. Everything, can block on the perimeter, plays in the slot, but he does his best damn is stretching the field, and the Raiders need that presence down the field because Henry Ruggs was an idiot. That's the cleanest way I'm going to put it, but after he left, they really didn't have a guy that scared the defenses and defensive secondaries, right? Now you enter Treylon Burks, and I think he could be that guy. But Josh McDaniels there, who's an offensive-minded guy, he's going to find ways to use Treylon Burks.
Daniel Jeremiah has Charles Cross falling to 22 to the Vegas Raiders.
No way. There's no way.
Take it up with Daniel Jeremiah. I'm just reading what the man wrote. You coming at me with attitude. I'm just reading what was wrote in front of me.
All right, fair enough.
It's not me. I ain't say it, but that's what he wrote. Charles Cross falls all the way to 22 to the Vegas Raiders. He's a day one starter, and Chad Reuter has Vegas staying right where they are. No trades for this pick, and he has Jameson Williams going to the Raiders at 22, coming off a freshly torn ACL. He probably won't play this season, if at all. Like if he does,
unlikely.
I mean, if he does, more power to him. But if he doesn't, then the Raiders don't have to worry about a receiver for next year's draft.
If the Raiders somehow got Charles Cross at this pick right here, their front office would literally just buy every lottery ticket they could ever find because they're gonna hit big, like for real. Like there's no way Charles Cross is gonna be there at 22. Like there's no way. I'd be shocked.
I
can't imagine it.
I don't either, especially when people talk about Charles Cross the way that they have. I find it
Charles Cross is going to be a top 10 pick. There's no way he falls out of the top 10.
I find it hard for him to get top 10. Like if he makes it past 15, like that's a miracle.
He won't make it out of the top 10. Moving on from them, we got the Arizona Cardinals on the clock. Their needs are cornerback, offensive line, tight end, defensive tackle, and wide receiver. I have them going David Ojabo, the edge out of Michigan, who's still here in my mock draft. Chandler Jones is not a guarantee to come back due to his free agency situation. I think he's going to try to re-sign somewhere else. Even if he does, they need another edge rusher, another guy to put some pressure on the quarterback, especially if J.J. Watt walks away, which I imagine he's going to retire. If he, I'd be shocked if he didn't. David Ojabo is a steal at 23. It's just the way my draft board shakes out that he falls to 23.
Wait, who you have at 23?
David Ojabo, edge,
Okay.
Michigan.
Okay. Sorry.
I have an edge rusher as well going to the Arizona Cardinals. I haven't taken Trayvon Walker out of Georgia, a guy that you can plug in and have an immediate impact. But I think in this situation, he might be a situational pass rusher. Depends on what they do with J.J. Watt next year. Do you let Trayvon Walker start and then you let J.J. come in off the bench in third down pass rusher situations at this
Well, the
point
great thing about
in his career?
Walker is you could move him inside, and they
Yeah,
could
can.
use some help on the inside too. So
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
TJ, experts.
Daniel Jeremiah, Kyler Gordon, Trent McDuffie's running mate out of Washington, the opposite of the number 2 corner. He has the Cardinals taking Kyler Gordon, sure up that secondary.
Wow.
He thinks Kyler Gordon's going to kill it at the combine, and he's going to sneak into like the latter part of the first round. And Reuter has Trent McDuffie falling all the way to 23.
I can see it. I've actually seen a lot of mock drafts where Trent McDuffie falls into the 20s. Moving on from there, we got the Dallas Cowboys on the clock. Their major needs are defensive tackle, edge, offensive guard, safety, tight end, and linebacker. TJ, how are the experts what are the experts doing for the Cowboys?
Chad Reuter has Garrett Wilson falling all the way to 24, going to Dallas.
Wow.
This is again, this one of those safe picks. Amari Cooper could get traded. Michael Gallup could leave. And Cedric Wilson could leave. So you're left with CeeDee Lamb and who else?
Yeah, good point. And Dalton Schultz, Bobby Schultz's cousin Dalton Schultz is a free agent as well.
And Daniel Jeremiah has Nakobe Dean falling all the way to 24 and going to Dallas. Again, Randy Gregory could leave. They got to make a decision on DeMarcus Lawrence, who wasn't there, who's been not. They got to make a decision on DeMarcus Lawrence. Leighton Vander Esch has been in and out of the lineup since he's had some neck issues, which that's more scary than you can't really hold that against him because stuff happens. But if Nakobe Dean is still on the board at 24,
it's a steal. I have the Cowboys planning for Randy Gregory to leave in free agency. I haven't taken George Karlaftis, the edge out of Purdue. This would be a steal at 24 too.
So in this situation, let's say Nakobe Dean and Garrett Wilson are still on the board at 24 for Dallas. What direction would you go? If you're making the pick, what direction would you go?
I guess it depends on how free agency shakes out. If they end up trading away Amari Cooper and they lose everybody else, I'm going to go wide receiver. If they don't trade Amari Cooper, I'm going to go defensive side of the ball. I'm going to take Nakobe Dean.
Christian?
I think the Cowboys are going to go defense. The Cowboys can get rid of DeMarcus Lawrence because Michael Parsons makes him expendable. Randy Gregory, you have a decision to make with him, but I have the Cowboys here taking DeMarvin Leal from Texas A&M. Can play on the edge, can play on the inside of the defensive line, and I think he'd be the perfect running mate to play alongside Michael Parsons.
That guy was at one point during this season, before the season started, a top 5 pick. And now he's barely in a first rounder. That's just wild. The dude came into the season with crazy buzz and it just kind of flatlined. Moving on from them, we got the Buffalo Bills on the clock. They have some needs. They got cornerback, defensive end, offensive guard, linebacker, defensive tackle, running back, and wide receiver. Christian, how do you see the Buffalo Bills handling this draft with their first pick?
What was the one thing I consistently complained about with the Buffalo Bills this year?
on the ability to run the football.
Every time we talk about their inability to run the football, and they kind of reminded me of the 2020 Pittsburgh Steelers. Remember when I started working with y'all, I kept saying the quick passing game was their equivalent of a running game, and you saw that sometimes with the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills just need some push, and I think they're going to get it right here. I have them taking Kenyon Green, the offensive tackle out of Texas A&M. To some and myself, I think he's the best run run blocking offensive lineman in this draft. He wants to get down and dirty. He wants to get down the field. He wants to open up lanes, and I think this is the guy that can help the Bills boost up their running game.
So one of my concerns about Tampa Bay, or for the Buffalo Bills, is Levi Wallace played the most snaps in their secondary last season. He is coming back. He's a potential free agent. You have Ladarius White coming back off the ACL tear. I have them taking Andrew Booth Jr., cornerback out of Clemson. I think they need to address their secondary, especially if they lose Levi Wallace, because he may be priced out of their own market. So give me Andrew Booth Jr., quarterback Clemson for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, that's who Chad Ruder has going to the Buffalo Bills at 25. The only reason Levi Wallace played the most snaps is because Tre'Davious White
I know.
got hurt. I know you know that, but most people don't think, like, they forget about that. Like, the minute the player gets hurt, unless you're a fan of that team, obviously, the minute the player gets hurt, they maybe think about it for like a week or two, and then all of a sudden, like, you see people just going up and down the field on Buffalo. Like, why is the deep secondary giving up so many points? Oh, Tre'Davious White's out. That's right. Andrew Booth, Clemson, goes to Buffalo at 25. That's Chad Ruder's draft. Daniel Jeremiah has Traylon Burks falling all the way to 25, and he's given Josh
Allen.
Yeah, Josh. I want to say Josh Allen for some reason, but I'm like, that is not his name. They want to give Josh Allen another weapon, so they could. But Jeremiah also writes that the Bills could opt for a DB here, but if Burks is there, they go with Traylon Burks.
Moving on from that, we got the Tennessee Titans on the clock. Christian, what are the experts doing? Their needs are quarterback, wide receiver, linebacker, edge, offensive line, outside linebacker, and tight end.
Oh my God!
Have them taking an offensive lineman here. I think they're going to take Zion Johnson out of Boston College. They're calling him another one of the best run blocking offensive linemen in this draft. And what do the Tennessee Titans like to do? They like to run that football. So, yeah, he's a day one starter right from the get-go.
I'm going to have them go wide receiver. I'm going to go on a limb here and assume that A.J. Brown and Julio Jones will start the season on this roster. I think they're going to run it back, and I think that they can be a team that can let a wide receiver take a wide receiver early here and have him not play next season. I'm taking Jameis Williams out of wide receiver at Alabama. If this dude didn't tear his ACL, he's a top 10 pick probably.
He's a top 5 pick.
No, I don't know about 5, but top 10 for sure. This is a steal at 26. If he can come back healthy, and there will be no pressure on this guy to play next season. And as long as they bring back Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, James Williams will just be a luxury if he ever comes back next season. Give me James Wilson for the Titans at 26.
I think this is highly unlikely, but Chad Ruder has Nakobe Dean falling all the way to 26 to the Tennessee Titans.
He would be a good fit.
He would be a great fit, especially if Rashad Evans walks.
And Jayon Brown. Like, if both of those guys walk, then yeah. But if he's there, and I know this guy for a fact won't be there at 26. Daniel Jeremiah has Tyler Linderbaum falling all the way to 26 to the Tennessee Titans. I don't see him falling that far.
Centers are usually a position that's not drafted particularly early. You remember Cesar Ruiz for the New Orleans Saints was like 26 somewhere. So that's like usually where. But Tyler Linderbaum is so much better than the next center. I mean, it wouldn't be shocked if he fell to 26, but it seems super unlikely.
Yeah, you're right.
Moving on from here, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the clock as they try to go without Mr. Tom Brady, and I have my fourth trade here at 27. I have the 49ers trading Jimmy Garoppolo to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a third round pick this year and a fourth next year. And I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers turning around and taking Trayvon Walker, defensive end, defensive tackle out of Georgia. There's no guarantee that they're going to be able to keep Ndamukong Suh or Jason Pierre-Paul. Trayvon Walker can play either of those two positions effectively. Plug him in, plug and play. You reload this defense. Give me Trayvon Walker at
You
27.
are really Christian. He is really sold on Jimmy G getting traded to Tampa. Like
It's happening. It's going to happen.
like
Ooh,
Hey, if
Mr.
that
Handoff, Mr. Handoff.
if that happens, like whenever we meet up again, we go to Fatty's. Whatever you get is on me. If that happens, I swear to God. Chad Ruder has Zion Johnson, the center out of Boston College, going to Tampa. They just lost Ali Marpet to retirement. Ryan Jensen could walk or retire. If they lose Ryan Jensen, I think that jumps to the front of the top of their priority list, and they get his heir apparent. Daniel Jeremiah has Jameson Williams falling all the way to 27, which is more that's also more realistic because, again, like David said, he doesn't need to play right away. And not only is Chris Godwin not coming back, but they could also lose Chris Godwin altogether because Godwin's a free agent too.
Yeah. Christian, what do you got the Tampa Bay doing?
I got Tampa Bay getting some secondary help because they were awful last year. Whether it was injuries, bringing guys in off the street, and they haven't really been able to produce. I have them taking Trent McDuffie out of Washington, a guy you can plug in. And just like I said earlier, just look at everybody you have to play in the NFC South. You're going to have to play the Saints 2 times a year, a team that has your number. And
by the way,
right. You're going to have to play Atlanta. You're going to have to deal with Cordell Patterson, Kyle Pitts, Carolina. Like I said earlier, I ain't worried. But yeah, I think Trent McDuffie would be great here.
I like it. I don't hate it. Trent McDuffie's long gone by this point in my mock draft, so he wasn't
absolutely
an option. Moving on from this team, we got the Green Bay Packers on the clock. Their team needs are edge, defensive end, offensive lineman, wide receiver, cornerback, tight end, defensive tackle. And in my mock, as you may have remembered, they traded away Aaron Rodgers and they got 2 first-round picks and KJ Hamler. I still have them going wide receiver. I had them taking Jawan Dotson, wide receiver out of Penn State. The dude is crazy talented. He really flew off the pages when you watch Penn State games. Give me Dotson for the Packers at 28. It's funny how they trade him away and then they get a wide receiver to help him out.
So in Chad Ruler's mock, the Packers traded up with New England. So New England's here at 28. And they get Mac Jones, another weapon, and George Pickens out of Georgia. And I think he comes in and he's immediately wide receiver 1. I'm trying to think of who else is on that. Yeah, he's right there. Because he fits the build of a number 1 guy. And Daniel Jeremiah, Green Bay still on the board because he didn't do any mocks. I really got to find a Daniel Jeremiah mock draft where he includes trades and stuff. He has Boye Mafe out of Minnesota, the edge rusher out of Minnesota, going to Green Bay at 28. Again, if you lose both the Smith guys, you gotta have to give Rashawn Gary some help. And they both their first round picks. No, both mock drafts I've read have been getting some kind of edge rusher. They don't have 2 first round picks. I'm reading 2 mocks. So Boye Mafe at 28 on Daniel Jeremiah's mock, edge rusher, Minnesota.
Christian.
The Packers, I have them going defensive help. I think they're going to take Devontae Wyatt here from Georgia, defensive tackle that can play on the edge and can play on the inside as well. Another strong force from that Georgia team last year that just won a national championship.
Going into South Beach, Miami Dolphins team needs offensive lineman, linebacker, running back, wide receiver, defense, tight end. I have them taking Devontae Wyatt, defensive tackle out of Georgia. Just to shore up that defense, continue to play tough enough defense because we don't know what we're going to get from Tua from the game to game, season to season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Devontae Wyatt, defensive tackle out of Georgia.
Go ahead, Christian.
Have them taking Bernard Ryman, an offensive tackle out of Central Michigan. Want to keep Tua up on his feet? Get an offensive lineman that can protect him.
Love it.
I'm sure Christian and Daniel Jeremiah like called each other and talked when they did their mock drafts because
Look,
Daniel
man,
Jeremiah
look.
has Tyler Smith going out of the offensive tackle out of Tulsa, going to Miami at 29. It's the same thing, like Christian just said. You want to see what Tua has, you got to protect him. Chad Reuter, on the
Yeah,
other hand, has the Jets trading with this, like has the Jets trading for this pick.
Okay.
So the Jets are at 29, and they take edge rusher Drake Jackson out of USC at 29.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, what are they giving up to do that? Probably their second round pick and maybe like a second later or a third or something.
It says because in his mock draft, he has them taking Kyle Hamilton with their fourth pick. Is it
Yeah.
fourth? Yeah. So he has Kyle Hamilton going to the Jets at 4. This is Chad Reuter, and in order for them to get this draft pick, they trade with the Dolphins, and it says the trade up cost general manager Joe Douglas the 4th round pick his team received from the Panthers in the Sam Darnold deal, and I'm pretty sure it's going to cost more than that.
No, that
So,
actually makes sense. I mean, if they're swapping that second round pick, that's like top 4. So I mean, a 4th round pick to move up like 7 slots kind of makes sense.
So yeah, so he has Drake Jackson going to the Jets at 29.
Okay. From there, we got the Kansas City Chiefs on the clock. Team needs cornerback, wide receiver, edge, linebacker, defensive tackle, and safety. TJ, how do the experts weigh in?
Chad Reuter has Kyer Elam from Florida going to the Chiefs at 30, and this is a solid pickup for them if they are able to re-sign Tyrann Mathieu. So
Even if it's not, they're going to need secondary help. I mean,
but if you re-sign Tyrann Mathieu, I feel more comfortable replacing Mike Hughes and Charvarius Ward than I would have to replace Tyrann Mathieu.
sure.
And Daniel Jeremiah has Dax Hill, the safety out of Michigan, going to Kansas City if they lose Tyrann Mathieu. So he has the safety. Like, they both go to secondary. One just has a safety, the other has a corner.
I have the Kansas City Chiefs taking Chris Olave, wide receiver, Ohio State. Get another
I hate
burner.
you. Why would you give them more weapons like that? Like they don't need that.
I mean, they're
I
going.
hate you.
It's potential they're going to lose Markel Hardman, who's a free agent this offseason. They might not be able to keep him. Demarcus Robinson, I think, is a free agent this offseason too. So they're going to retool this offense. Give me Chris Olave. Christian.
I'm in the same direction as David, but I have them taking somebody else. I have them taking Drake London out of USC. He, I think, would be the perfect fit for the Chiefs offense because I complained about it a lot throughout the year. Travis Kelce's good. You know what you're going to get from him, right? Tyreek Hill, he's great. You know what you're going to get from him. After those two, who can you depend on?
Nobody.
It's really a
Hit or miss.
receiver by committee. It's
It's
really
hit or
hit or miss. And Drake London gives Patrick Mahomes a true possession threat on the outside. 6'5", just goes up and gets the football. It's almost like he's playing basketball, TJ. Just kind of boxes out, positions himself
I love
to
that.
go for the ball.
Drake London's not available in my mock anymore, but yeah, I love that pick.
And it's, I mean, like we already said, like everybody's like they need a number 2. They need a number 2 receiver. I'm like, well, if you really think about it, they need a number 3 because Kelsey's their 1, and Tyreek Hill's their 1. However you want to slice it up, Hill and Kelsey are 1 and 2 for them, so they really need a third option. I don't mind them going receiver at what pick? What pick is this? 30.
30.
I don't mind them going receiver at 30 for the simple fact that those other 2 guys You can't wait on them forever. You can't wait on Miko Hardman to finally step up and assume that slot mantle, or who's
Byron
the other guy?
Pringle or
Byron
Marcus
Pringle,
Robinson. Just
Demarcus Robinson.
put all of
Like
those
you
guys in
can't
there.
do
Like,
that. You can't do that. Like no, that's not right.
and moving on to the final two picks, we got the Cincinnati Bengals on the clock. Their needs are cornerback, offensive line, safety, linebacker, and tight end. Christian, how do you think they're gonna? What do you think the Cincinnati Bengals are gonna do?
Offensive line and nothing else. Damn it. Trevor Penning, Northern Iowa.
Offensive line, nothing else is damn
You
right.
say
But
no.
Trevor Penning is gone in my mock draft, so give me Tyler Smith, offensive tackle out of Tulsa.
Well, Chad Ruler is saying "f you" to both of y'all because he's going Devontae Wyatt out of Georgia because Larry Ogunjobi and B.J. Hill are both scheduled to hit free agency, and he is under the impression that they aren't able to re-sign either one. So they go Devontae Wyatt, and I guess you go. I guess he's a day one guy.
Probably.
However, Daniel Jeremiah seems to agree with y'all, but he has him taking Bernard Rahman out of the offensive tackle out of Central Michigan. And if I am any other NFL analyst and I work with Chad Ruder, I pull him out to the side, not out to the side, I pull him to the back, I smack him a couple times, and I ask him, bro, what are you thinking about when you made this mock that the team that went to the Super Bowl, they were a play away because Aaron Donald literally imposed his will on the offensive line and made my star quarterback rush his throw to miss out on winning the Super Bowl. The Cincinnati Bengals, I don't know how many picks they got this draft. Every one of them should be offensive line. Every single one of them.
I totally agree with you on that. To the final pick, the Detroit Lions team needs wide receiver, quarterback, offensive guard, linebacker, defensive tackle. Christian, what do you got the Detroit Lions doing?
They need church.
Have them going quarterback.
They got to go
taking Matt Corral
Okay.
out of Ole Miss.
They got to go to They need church.
And they need to look there. They need a little communion too, a little church.
They need the benediction.
TJ, what are the experts doing for this pick?
Besides taking them to church, no, I'm just playing. Daniel Jeremiah has big 99 out of Georgia. Jordan Davis going to Detroit, and they haven't had a guy a guy that can plug up a run like that since Ndamukong Suh / Nick Fairley. Is clearly needed, but Chad Ruder tends to think like Christian, and he has Desmond Ridder closing out the first round and going to Detroit at 32.
So I have the Detroit Lions also going quarterback, but I do not have them taking either of the two guys that you just mentioned. So who is it?
Do you have Sam Howell going to the Detroit
I
Lions?
have the Detroit Lions taking Sam Howell, quarterback out of North Carolina.
I would love that.
As
a Bears fan, I would love that.
They can roll the dice on him because they have this extra first-round pick. There was a time and a place where Sam Howell was the number one quarterback prospect coming into this draft, and yes, he has ball. He has
not just the number one quarterback prospect.
Sure,
he was the
number one
highest
prospect.
favorite.
So Sam Howell does have talent. He does have upside. If the Lions can let him just figure it out for a season while they have Jared Goff there, and they'll have the extra year to have his rights of his contract. They don't have to trade up to try to get him. They can let Sam Howell really develop because he needs to develop. Like the dude has talent. There's talent there. Sam Howell. Detroit,
and he was the Heisman favorite. He was the preseason Heisman favorite, David.
Yeah, I know. I know. But I think there is talent there, and I think he will. I think if you give him a real chance in the NFL, put him on the Lions, let him sit for Jared Goff for one season, I'm rolling the dice on it.
Well, I think you do that, but if you also run the risk of if Jared Goff just goes out there and he's just god awful, you don't think that organization is going to be, hey, play the, you don't think they're going to call down to Dan Campbell, hey, play the kid?
I don't know, maybe. I mean, maybe. That's always a risk. But
like,
I think
what if
Sam
it's another
Howell
season
has
like
talent.
the one they just had? What if it's another season like the one they just had? where they just god off, can't win a game, like can't close a game. They go 2-4. They go 2-15 again.
I think
Like
if you're the Lions, I think you're okay with that because you'll get the draft cap. This is how I'm going Sam Howell. That has been the end of our first round mock draft. Thank you very much for staying with us. I've been David Huffman, Christian Simpson, TJ Hopkins. Thank you very much for joining us for our mock draft 2.0. We're going to come back and visit this in a couple weeks when we do our 3.0. Gentlemen, what we do here at the Prime, my friends.
we bring the heat. Yeah, the combine's going on for like the next 3 days. So some mock drafts are definitely going to be updated, considering some of the numbers that we've seen today. There was a receiver out of Baylor, Tyquan Thornton. He broke the 40-yard dash combine record. He ran 4.21.
Wow. You know what that means, right? That means
He's
you
going
don't
to the
ran from the
Raiders.
ass whipping it too. No, that means you don't ran from the
It's
ass
gonna be a
whipping
race.
too.
Me and TJ are gonna be back here tomorrow to bring you the crossover, bring you the most up-to-date stuff going on in the National Basketball Association. So you don't want to miss that content. David, Christian, TJ, I will see you guys later. Y'all have a good rest of your day. Okay.